Okay, so it's not letting me record on my end for some strange reason. I'm recording on YouTube, but it's not letting me record here.
On your computer?
On my computer.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. So we'll just let it be as it is. This is the first time I can record. The record button is not here.
Maybe that's not designed.
It's not designed.
Yeah.
Welcome this in.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone to this hour, the Ascension Hour, Rev HoniB and her incredible guest, someone that on many, many planes of consciousness, we've been interacting. And this is actually the first time that Yukia and I get to meet in this virtual space together with you. And I'm so delighted truly to welcome the sacred, galactic, divine, fabulous, glorious sister, Yukia Azorah Sandara. Welcome to this show. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence today.
Well, it's I'm honored to be here and to share this space with you, and looking forward to this moment for a while, but knew that it was organically going to happen one day. So looking forward to this ride.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I welcome all the guests that are joining us to just relax, sit back, as this is going to be a fantastic conversation. And I have been also very much looking forward to it. So as usual, before we begin, let us just dive into this sacred space. And as we usually do, so let us just put our feet flat on the floor and let us close our eyes as we place our hands on our heart. Let us just connect with that beautiful heart space. And I'm going to ask all of us to draw this slow, deep in-breath from the horizontal plane right into the center of the heart and hold the breath as we connect with that sacred, pure white, dazzling golden crystalline light and really connect to its center, to its love, the love of its creation. And feel that inside as you release your breath. Let us take another deeper in-breath from this horizontal plane, even slower into that sacred heart space once again, and hold the breath as from that divine crystalline love, you draw your attention now downward through this lower chakras, passing through the Earth Star chakra, extending all the way down to the center of Sophia Gaia, her crystalline diamond glorious heart, connecting your heart to her heart so she knows you're here in this vertical axis. And release your breath. Let us now draw another deep in-breath from this horizontal plane, slower, deeper, all the way back into the center of your crystalline diamond glorious heart, and hold the breath. And from your love, draw your attention upwards through the higher chakras, passing through the soul star chakra, all the way up through this vertical axis of light, passing through this beautiful great central sun and behind the sun into the heart of source of all creation, and connect with its love, its heart, and release your breath upwards. And now this final in-breath, draw the breath slower and deeper from this horizontal plane all the way back to the center of your crystalline diamond heart, recognizing this vertical axis of light and this horizontal axis of light centralized in your glorious, dazzling sphere of light, as from inside, from its crystalline light, breathe it out all the way out to your outer field in this sphere of golden white light. so that it is completely enclosing you in all direction. Release the breath out. And we recognize each of us are completely enclosed in this pure white crystalline light of love from the heart of source of all creation. Anything less than this divine perfection may not interact or interfere in any which way. As we're open in this safe container of pure divine love from divine mother, divine father, and the words that the sacred guest Yukia will be sharing with us comes from the highest plane, and it is received in our hearts as we begin this conversation in recognition of her sacred ascension walk on earth. And so be it as we begin. So welcome everyone as we relax back and we open up in that beautiful reception as the sacred, beautiful sister surely has a lot to share, because I know without a shadow of doubt, this has been an enriched walk on your beautiful walk on this wonderful earth. And I'm here to just start asking you some questions, Yukia. So here you are with all the guests. I just want to find out where you are now, in this now, because you've gone through so much, like the rest of us.
Yes.
Where are you right now in this journey? Where have you arrived in this moment?
So it's certainly been an interesting journey, but and I was thinking about your question, and it's not difficult to answer, because it's at the moment where I am in is in a place of trust, unwavering trust, and also a place of detachment, from the identity of the vessel as being Yukia Sandara, with her entourage and team, because everything, the realization that everything is really integrating beautifully. And I always say integrating, because it's always in movement, and we never end. It's not a finite walk by any means. So the dissension of the higher versions of the self, the totality of the soul, have been integrating through the years, through different chosen experiences, and through the walk back to love of self, love of self, and the walk back of all those fragmented parts of the identity, okay, that were gradually collected through the various deaths and rebirths, because there were numerous. And just lately, I went through a huge one, and probably one of the biggest, which I called, the call for full integration and embodiment, to be anchored at the crystalline core of the earth, but the willingness to do that by the love for self that the vessel is now embodying, okay, which was not the case sometimes before, where there was the longing of going home. Now there is this realization that I love to be here. That this is my home, and this is and the work that is unfolding is very of a different nature, and there's a lot of passion and excitement as a result of that. But it could only have happened after the dissension, of all those parts of the self and the collection of all those fragments. And it had to do with the decision, to really be here.
Yeah.
That was pivotal.
Yeah.
7 years ago, that decision wasn't yet cemented. It was there, but it was there sometimes, not other times, but now it's there. So this is the difference. And then the trust comes, that unwavering trust that whatever you are going through, whether it's very challenging and it seems that you are, going to be flying off, somewhere else, it's actually not what it seems. It's just an ascension, of those higher versions of yourself that are now ready to be anchored into the earth. And so there's a balancing act. So lately, what has happened is that I have been, very fluid. The walls of the house disappearing, fluid, me being in the middle of an ocean in a little wooden rack, waves bouncing like this, with waves spinning in a vortex, lots of peaks of blood pressure, but really high, from someone who had low blood pressure. So I knew this had nothing to do really with the vessel. It had to do with the energetic portal that opened, and it started on the 13th of just before the 22nd portal opened, and it closed on the 25th.
Yeah.
So everything then subsided. But in that moment, that the spinning was so volatile, because I wouldn't be able to move when walking, because I was spinning in a vortex. And usually I'm spinning in a vortex, but I can ground very quickly. But I wasn't able to do it. And going through that moment of that flitting moment of, sort of a small panic that it has to do with the doubt, and then going over that moment and into trust, into this unwavering faith that this is just a huge recalibration of the hemispheres, of the right and the left hemisphere, to really cement, a new reset, of the organs, of the meridians, everything inside. And when that was realized, which was quite quickly this time, usually, before it was, took longer, then it was just surrendering, surrendering to the waves, surrendering to the fact that maybe I cannot go and walk to town, because I don't have coordination, surrendering to the fact I can't eat, I can just drink smoothies, and, surrendering to the fact that the physical body hasn't got anything, that this is just a reset, and then welcoming, which was the last part, welcoming the reset, with ease and grace. And, that's where that unwavering trust and that love for self, that that whatever is unfolding, it's for your highest good, and
you shared so many golden nuggets in here, and I really thank you, Yukia, because my audience has been hearing from all the different speakers since September. What is so interesting, literally every guest is in the same incredible place of the embodiment of the ascension in descension. So it's been such a beautiful position for me to keep hearing it, and my audience hearing it, and the amount of individuals that are part of this leading edge of ascension, what is called in exactly this, bringing it, like literally bringing it, there's that defragmentation and then alignment, and alignment in the grounding in it and the true essence. And the two key things that you spoke about, trust, and you spoke about self-love. And I do want to share this with you. This you shared, I exactly went through this past several days, and it's like it's been incredible to be a witness to this next. It's not even a next octave. It is the octaves that is now just wants to ground in its full spectrum of essence. So I fully and I knew the time that, and I just knew it would be after the equinox you and I have to meet, because there's a lot to share around here. But for the audience purposes, I really want to come around the two things. There's this space of trust we talk about. I want to anchor this, and then the self-love, because I did a full video yesterday as everything is happening with the economic as well as the banking system, all of that. And the key part, what's happening on a higher plane, that's playing out here. And the key part is this higher self-love. How can you love yourself even greater during this? Because it is part of this massive change that is taking place on the planet. So I want to just, for practical purposes, what are some of your higher love within this template that you literally put into implementation that wasn't even 6 months ago, wasn't a year ago? So my audience can hear that. That's my number one question to ask you. And number two, this space of trust that we speak of, there is this human trust that is beautiful, it's precious, and it's so limited the way it trusts. And then you're dismantled in all of these, because there's this the grand master trust that's coming, and that looks very different. So I want to see from you, being a witness and observer of your own, and please speak to those two for the audience.
Yes. So in terms of the love, the love of self, the love of thyself, because there are two layers to that. There's actually many layers, but one is the nurturing love for the human. They embrace that the human form, the physical body, because it's always been a challenge with the physical body, that the physical body needed to be nurtured and embraced in as many ways as possible.
What did you do for our audience? That's what I want to hear.
So, I took my rest periods between assignments. My call to action was extremely reduced, so I was just allowing myself to be and to be moving every single moment without having to do something. So allowing silent time, a lot of silent time. Also, really discerning what the body actually needed to be fed, in terms of nutrition, in terms of even supplements. I did away with all the supplements, in fact, because I realized that the body didn't actually need any of these supplements except for one, which is NAC that I take, which really, really helps me a lot. And sometimes magnesium, but not all the time. I give alternate. So I went through that process of, okay, let's see, what is my body? Asking the body, what is my body really needing at this moment? It needs rest. It needs just to be and to flow without having the need to rescue, save, run a webinar and run a program or run sessions, and how is my body going to be, what does it need in terms of that nurturing embrace and love? So really giving there's a great space for mantras. I did, some people like to meditate in silence. I'm not one of them. So I'm I have an accelerated energy. So I need to walk, for example. So hiking. Yeah. So I took hikes on top of the mountains. It's not here, but I'm not here by accident in the Andes. I'm here precisely to ground and root. And these apos, they help me. They help this body to root it, and then listening to the conversation of pachamama, and the apos, and integrating that, and then saying mantras while I'm walking. And singing while I'm walking, because that worked for me.
Yeah, the joy.
It worked to root it, to ground it, to earth the energy. I needed, yes, there is a silver cord, and it's in the crystalline core of the earth, and I can see it and everything. But it was vacillating, and so you need to really ground it. And the body is your pulse and your voice. That's one of the learnings that I had. The love for the body, so giving it food, soul food, giving it soul food, and give it spirit food, because it's multi-layered, so the songs, the melodies, the spontaneous interactions in a coffee shop, the daring to go places of where there's a lot of people gathering, and whether before it was like, okay, do I go, don't I go, and venturing that, and just spreading, being in that loving kindness, and being in that love energy of embracing it all at all levels, and not feeling that they're not matching my frequency, anymore. So that all went, it blew out of the wind. It's been a deconstruction of that construct, that you need to just liaise or be aligned or in harmony with your higher self, with your monad, with your entourage that you've got inside you, but that certain energies are not in alignment. All right. So there was a deconstruction of that, a conscious deconstruction of that.
I love what you said, because a lot of that my audience are going to totally like a sponge reserved. Before you go to the point of trust, I just want to share this, Yukia, because this exactly, that literally examples that you shared, and many will relate, only because I'm very aware they're going through it, because for so long we did not know how to be in these bodies. We had such a hard time be housed in this body because of, there are numerous conversations around that, but simply how to be in a body, and we couldn't appreciate it. We really didn't. And interestingly enough, that's been coming in to be nourishing and nurturing. And myself, it's been, because we were preparing for the equinox, is also the Iranian New Year's. In this incarnation, I'm Iranian, so everything's prepared. A week before that, my whole system, 2 weeks before that, I went through this blasting of deconstruction, I want to say. And then the first thing was, I just had to keep touching myself. I keep having to kiss, like as if my body, my physical temple was so hungry to be kissed by nobody else, not even my blood, but by me, that as if it had never kissed it before. It had never loved it before. It was like this longing to love it. And there's been this like incredible, like, wow, what is this renewed sense of love for? It's very sensual, not sexual, very sensual, but it's like God's love. Oh, like from that. And I'm aware some of the audience have been experiencing. So I love that you said that. And my other question is, were you barefoot? Because I keep having to be barefoot, even more than before. All the walks, barefoot, 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 continues to feel that level of grounding, be earthing, like my feet have to be barefoot, and I'm by the ocean here. So I wonder
very
if
much,
mountain,
very,
were you barefoot?
you know, I wouldn't say I would walk barefoot.
Okay.
To the destination, to the high, I would hike with my shoes on. But as soon as I arrive in the place, the first thing I do is to take my shoes off. I was brought up in Africa, so barefoot was the way that we walked, basically. Very much near the sea, and so any chance that I have to be barefoot, I am. Also in my house, getting out in the middle of the night, when the spinning was really bad, and just being barefoot in my garden and lying tummy down in the middle of the night. Embracing pachamama was a key factor, one of the key factors. The other one that was very interesting was the body conversation with the cell structure and the DNA. Because your DNA is your consciousness, so you're storing that, but you can, so there is an awareness, because you've done this so many times, that there is a huge reset going on. So there is a conversation that started from a higher perspective. So that now we're looking at the love of God's world, so I call it, really embracing that field, and connecting from the innate, knowingness that comes so clearly filtered through that source, and consciously re-scripting the story of your cells and of your DNA, and giving it soul food, giving it love, giving soul food, so that it smoothly does it. So it's modulating the experience. I call it modulating because the impact can be quite dramatic, and it has certainly been in other times.
Yes.
But when this started, this conversation with the cells, the conversation with the DNA started, and the feeding of that innate clear purity of love of God's worlds, where you are just that energy, and that comes with the trust that your identification is your singularity, and it's welcomed. Right. And it really is. So we have this 50-50 balance, between tapping into the world of God, of God's worlds, with unlimited trust, because we want to improve ourselves, to evolve ourselves. We are a piece of God. And then there is the singularity inside, which is not really an identity anymore, because it is in observation and witnessing of that identity, of that movement, that is merging in a midway station. The Arcturians have a very the Arcturian aspect of myself has a terminology for that. It's when you bring everything into a midway station, so God's worlds and your singularity, with your skill sets, your missions, whatever it is that is inside that, and you blend it in a cosmic portal that you are, because we are the portals and the universes.
Good, so good. There's so many greatness in here, and within that space of trust for audience, when we recognize trust, a lot of time trust had been coming for many during this ascension walk. It's like many different levels of trust. Trust in itself has been a vehicle in which one has been given the opportunity to know itself, and it changes and changes, just like many audiences. So this trust in your incarnation and going through it, it's been many different layers of trust. And if you can speak to that, like, for example, your trust that you had in your, let's say, teen years was a very different trust than in your late 20s, than, and through all your different stages of your various ascension awakening, like the way that it kicked in, this trust and the relationship with trust changed. And so speak to that consciousness of trust on your ascension walk. And because you've come to recognize it in this now. And I love this question because it's a question for myself. I've been sitting with this, going over the various dynamics of trust, and I know where I am now. This will also change as I walk further. So into that consciousness of trust, if you would, for our audience.
Many levels of trust. So there were many phases. So I'll take you through a trajectory. That the first trust, that the first level of trust was finding myself in awareness that that whatever was playing out, as a young girl of 6 years old, because it started very early, was part of a bigger plan. Let's call it a bigger plan, because at the time it was part of a bigger plan. But the level of trust at that stage of interacting with my team of light, I call them the Sun Elders, was vacillated, So there was sometimes unwavering trust that the messages that I was receiving, or the visions that I was seeing, or the traveling that I was doing multidimensionally was what it was. Okay. And then there was another level, there was other times that there was this doubt that came in, that am I really tapping into the truth of who this is? Is this? Am I using my discernment? And our should I try and harder to discern and to filter? How many questions do I need to ask in order to ascertain whether those entities that are interacting with me are the true entities?
Yes.
So there was that. But then that would, because you are young, so that would fly away very quickly. But when the level of trust then changed into, and it was the change took place because it was connected with a power, with power, and it's very important. In my walk, I suddenly had that. The feeling that you are powerful, that you are able to navigate through realms of, and at the same time be in the physical body, all right, and use that power with, experience that power with purity, all right. That was one of them, and then the level of experiencing power imposed by the system when I was in my school years. Where I find myself, the odd one out, one of the odd ones out, not the only one, but and then having to follow procedures and protocols that were not in resonance or in alignment with my call, with my God's call, my call from spirit, and certainly that was one of the situations during the apartheid system in South Africa, because I went from Mozambique to South Africa because of the coup d'etat, and when I found myself in a system that was highly controlled, highly discriminatory, highly, where injustice was there, and where the convent that I got inserted in, where there were lots of rules and regulations that impeded, that I felt blocked my freedom of being and my freedom of expressing myself in my full capacity. And I had to manage that power play. So that was a different type, because it's how do I manage the power play, that's taking place, but still being true to myself and expressing that to those in authority, to the headmasters that wanted the hat in a specific way, or the uniform, or the attendance at mass, which I declined, and the Bible schools, the Bible studies that I declined. But then I found, very interestingly, that that experience of standing up to that authority, so that you could keep the truth of who you are, that you, no matter what the barriers are, no matter what the limitations were at that time, I found that if you spoke up, from the truth of your own innate knowingness, you could still, not bend the system, but do what you wanted. You would still be free to do what you wanted. And this was actually possible. So that was another level of power, that was, and then the realization that you are not doing just this for yourself. That was another level of power. Okay. And this came trust. Trust started getting accumulated because there was validation. So I was one of the first ones in the convent from immigrant families, that came in with my sister. But then 3 weeks later, others came in, and they had a much easier time because we opened the way. Those controls to be relaxed, it's we waived the obligation syndrome of attending mass, of attending, obviously some of them chose to because they were in that energy, but if you chose not to, you could. So you have a role. The realization that was very interesting for me, the realization that by doing it for yourself, you are opening exponentially the envelope for everyone else to walk a path of much more freedom of expression, and with the limitations are just self-sabotage mechanisms, and they're not real, because you can waive them by standing in your truth and talking from that heart energy, because otherwise it doesn't work, And then another level of trust set in, because then I trusted that, yes, and this realization that I'm not just here for me, I'm here for everyone. I am everyone. It took me to my corporate life, It was a transformation. I was a human resources director for a multinational for 27 years, but my speciality was change and transformation.
Great.
Organizational development, change and transformation. And then I felt that I was now more ready, with what I had acquired every step of the way, to tackle the change in a corporate environment at strategic level and at management level, and to bite the elephant with creative ideas that were not in acceptance. So, designing programs that are out of the box, that have no PowerPoints, there's no structures, and there's not a manual of instructions to give to the audience, that is going through, where they were used to structure and foundation, and say, trust me, trust that this is going to be a creative right, and being able to pull it off, but going through the challenges too. It's not like it was smooth sailing, doing presentations, not being well received, bouncing back, and the in this collection of power and trust, because I really like to link both of them, because in my walk, I found that the persistence, your message that you were delivering, from the heart, being in a consistent and balanced way, that was one of the keys, and the willingness for you to promote that change within yourself first, and then within that environment. And then the benefits that change were going to bring to the company, or to the companies, or to the people that were involved, and seeing that realized. And sometimes, you didn't see it in the short term, but you saw it in being patient, holding a space of patience with yourself, and tolerance and compassion with yourself, that, you are actually good enough to do it, just the way you are envisaging, but it might take a few steps in between, and holding that trust of holding the space, and then combining the energy of spirit, because that's what also helped and assisted, to send love to those people that were in the journey of whatever journeys of transformations that there were, and welcoming them.
I love this conversation, Yukia. And this, I want to share something funny with you that I relate with you, because some of, again, our audience, the majority are also the rebels that came in, the starseeds. They came and they recognized that this was the training ground in the earlier years, so that they can deliver. So, I was incarnated in Iran, and I went through the revolution. You went through coup d'etat in that. In my third grade, 1985, it was the revolution in Iran. So all of that transformation that took place, I went through that, and like overnight throw the Shah, and then we became under the extreme Islamic ruling. So yours wasn't that. Mine was like extreme cover up with the hijabs and all of that. And if you didn't, they would put our feet into the bucket of cockroaches and everything about hell. And I mean, just extreme like level of insanity. So when we came to the US, I didn't speak any English, culture different. We'd left everything around. And I remember I was in middle school here. So in here in the United States, everybody in the morning, they have to stand up and do the pledge of the United States of America. And I remember I had just come from this extreme. I didn't want to support another. I was very young, during that time, 11, almost 12 years old. But I remember I wouldn't stand up, because you have to stand up. But because I didn't speak English, they would send me to the principal office. And I was like try to explain. So somebody came translate. I was like, no, it came from there. Under that, I can't do this. So it was so interesting, those early years, like you said, how it gave the opportunity to not conform, not conform. And it was interesting, like before you came on today, there's like a whole post I wrote about this conformity that comes from Atlantean template that we carried forth with all this manipulation, control, what have you, that still played out. And many of us incarnated to not deliberately conform, to move into that trust in however way it played out, and they'll take part. But I got away with it because I couldn't speak English. So they're like, oh, she can't say the pledge of the United States, and I would sit down. But there were a couple of other foreigners that were in the ESOL class, like one Vietnamese, one Chilean. They also didn't stand up because I didn't stand up. All the Americans stood up. Yes.
No, I understand. It's exactly what happened with the transition that from the into a regime that was, very closed, right, to say the least.
But at that time, you don't realize it. But like with you, that gave you the ability to trust. So it was always this muscle that was being given the opportunity to kind of bring it online, to trust this other muscle, trust this other that is in opposition with what is played out, which is a huge.
It was, and there were two lessons there.
Yes.
To really one was that the trust, that you could actually be yourself. Right. If you stood up. And And then the other one, the larger picture of opening the pathway to others. But then there was another one, which was this: what was the pearl of that system? And there was a pearl, because in this previous system, there was lots of freedom. Lots of freedom. You could easily get distracted in Mozambique, before the coup d'etat. Growing up, you could, if it continued, lots of freedom. No, really no controls. There's no protocols, basically. So the discipline was a pearl. Finding the pearl in the system that was quite oppressive in my own perception, finding the discipline in myself, the tidiness, the organizational skills that then helped out, growing into a corporate person, and then growing into, and then walking on my path, because the next thing was to leave, the next level of trust was to leave all this doing of the corporate world and go on a walkabout. That was another level. Leave everything behind. Put the backpack on. Divorce, leave all furniture, even the crystals, everything went, and from a very comfortable material life, walk the path of spirit for 15 years in different countries, just with a backpack.
Yep.
That was another level of trust.
So much with each other,
was another level of trust. It was like, and it was very challenging, to say the least, for me, because being able to, to be very comfortable with my material, abundance, and then suddenly not have that, and learn to live, which was needed for my embodiment. I needed to learn to be, just with elegant sufficiency, like my son says, elegant sufficiency. You live with elegant sufficiency. Everything would be happening at the moment and will be provided as you are walking, okay? And developing that trust. The first years were years of great turmoil, because, the survival instinct overpowered the flow of the heart.
So you got to experience also within that, as again, this is for the audience to remember, within that, again, there's this muscle, right? And then there's this, I remember the time where I again, like for example, it was a few times you go through from the material to complete no material, stripping from everything. So we did that when we came to the US, everything from comfort, everything down to a suitcase with my mother and $200. And we came from a wealthy life and everything. And then again, later on, that this happened again, everything when marriage, everything, I had to get stripped. And I remember, Yukia, I said, from a place of anger, I asked the team, I said, why I gotta get stripped like this again, like down to just a suitcase, 5.5 years, and away from my kids, and what is this? And they said to me, we want you to remember that you are everything.
Yes.
And I know you had that, but along the way, Yukia, I experienced also that lack of trust. That was such an important part of that. If you can speak to that, because on this Ascension,
very much.
In order for you to trust, you must know the opposition when you don't trust, and how you are hammered with that as well.
I kept on being hammered, because no matter how I initiated events, workshops, connections with indigenous tribes and gatherings, there was no abundance that was flowing. There was different type of abundance, though, so that was a lesson also for me, because although there was very little, because it was on donation basis. So everything was on donation basis, you know, and but then I felt I had so many dark nights of the soul with it because of the survival, you know, and being stuck in lack, you know, and being almost questioning, why am I being punished? You know, why am I being penalized? Yeah, when I have given up everything to find myself, to come to understand what this energy is, to connect with nature and, you know, all the elements and do the work of my soul's call, you know?
Yes.
So that was hard. That was hard. And it lasted quite a long time. I would say probably 10 years, you know, that it lost. I would bounce back, you know, abundance, no abundance, abundance, no abundance. But every time I was in that lack energy, I would feel, why am I doing, why?
So
Why
the
am I doing
victim really came out, right? That victim consciousness, because
yes,
it's
the victim consciousness. Yes, the victim
for the
consciousness.
audience to know that we have gone through this, like
Yes.
why there's that why me? I give everything else to serve this, to call my mission. What the hell is going on?
And then I was given a very strong message, you know, after those 10 years, because it was 10 years like that, that release, let go of that attachment to that victim consciousness, to that I'm pioneering this, you know, and I am not looked after, you know, by you guys, you know.
What do you think was happening? What was happening on you? What did you, because I had my realization coming out of that. What was your realization? The gift of truly experiencing victim consciousness. What was that for you, Yukia?
For me, that was, you know, really, you know, feeling, you know, that gift was through relationships. I had to get into two shadow relationships, polarized relationships. This was not my experience in the past with my previous two husbands. So I made it a decision to consciously to engage in two relationships that brought to the surface, you know, that victim consciousness. I could see it. It was palpable that, you know, I was diminishing my light in order to be accepted, in order to be loved, in order to be to walk with these two people, because there were two individuals, okay, and it was so visible during the engagement and the connection with these two people that everything crashed. You know, after the two relationships, first one and then the other one, everything crashed. And I was in a dark night of the soul, but that you can, you know, probably one of the biggest turnarounds and the biggest gifts in my life, because that's when I saw my patterns. That's when I saw the games, you know, that's where I saw where I was bending my light in order to be in a, you know, to be loved, because the love for self was no longer there, because it was so entrenched in that victim consciousness that I am the, you know, I'm rescuing the world, I am saving the world here, you know, I'm walking my path, and yet I'm being penalized. You know, it's like,
yep.
it had to be, it wasn't enough that I walked and I felt the lack. I had to engage with those two individuals in order for that to be so visible.
Because you have to see it you have to see it before it was inside, but you couldn't see it in the level that you needed to see it for it to be seen until it was literally reflection in front of you. And this is very important for the audience, because a lot of times they're going through it, or they've gone through it, or they're still going through it. That turnaround doesn't take place until it is so clearly seen what that vibration inside is. And many of us that incarnated, we had to go there because we had to know at such a deep, compassionate level that shoe of victim. What is it like as on a soul level, soul to come in to recognize, being a victim, disempowered, insecure,
Yes.
in the name of exchange of the faulty human limited love, to disempower ourselves, only to then from that resurrect ourselves. It's such a perfection, but it is a journey, right?
And find the love for self, because that's how I found the love for the energy of the of this consciousness. That's
What did it? What did it? What was the moment for you, Yukia, that like kicked this special moment in that dark night of the soul?
So when the love for it was a broken heart.
Mm-hmm.
No, that did it. Because, and it wasn't it was a broken heart. It was the love for that individual, for one of those, that was surpassed the love for self, and actually activated an opening, a chaotic node, first a chaotic node, chaos, that I am nothing, I have nothing to offer as a light worker, because I also came to that point, I have nothing to offer because I can't even surf through this relationship. I'm completely in chaos. I can't think, I can't work, I can't do anything. And is this real love? And the realization that it wasn't, but at the time that you are in, you think it is. You think it is. So going through that anger also, that was another thing, manifestation, because I've always been a very calm person, not really, even during my periods of standing up for in my power, never elevated voice, never, but it was that experience brought everything up, broke everything. So it created, all the deconstruction took place, all the fragments were flying around, and I needed to then collect when I set myself free. Yes. But in my setting myself free, because realizing that this experience was a gift, I had to retrieve all the fragmented parts of myself. So all the power and the permission slips that I had given away, through time, not only in that relationship, I collected, and I went into a soul retrieval, which is a Tibetan, and I followed a Tibetan lineage on it. And I want to share this with your audience because, there's many ways to do it. But this way, was really very effective. It was 11 days of a specific mantra, that was activated, and I was guided by a light worker that was working with that lineage, and who said, go into it, and I bought a mala beads, and it's 108 beads. So you go through the beads and you just say the mantra, I am Makamdrandu, I am Makamandru, and you say it 8 times a day. I said, first you have to set your intention, because my intention was to liberate myself. But before that, my intention was to acknowledge the pain, to acknowledge the shadow, to acknowledge the fragments what I've allowed myself to give away, and then to retrieve it afterwards. And it was 11 days where there was nothing else. I wasn't doing anything. I was just being, and after those 11 days, there was a huge shift. There was I felt a shift after the 6th day on my left and hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain, because it's the mind that constructs the stories. That realization that you need to empty that part. But there was like this golden spiral, almost deconstructing it. Once that happened, then I continued with my mantras. I had the thought or in the middle of that, oh no, it's all done, I don't need to do it. But I did it. And after that period, I started feeling all those higher vibration fragments that were going to serve this incarnation, this vessel, and my path forward, coming back in, and all those leaving. But it was like an accelerated, it wasn't like one by one, it was all done in a very, I would say, chaotic way, because everything was chaotic. But the gift of the chaos was something that I express gratitude every single day today, because embracing the gift of the chaotic notes when they occurring and when you are ready to acknowledge them, because that's very important. Because if you don't do that, you can't move forward. And so there was a silence that then sets itself in. There was no more pain in the heart. There was the even flow of breathing, because even the breathing was difficult, and that was a reset. That victim consciousness, and that survival thing. And so it was then, it was a huge reset. How am I going to recreate myself now? And am I going to think about it, or I'm going to just leave it, and continue my travels and just be in that moment and allow the energies to, allow the pieces of the puzzle to come together so that I can then take the next step and stay very present. So the presence was another level of trust, because that presence started setting in, that divine presence, that silence, long periods of silence, not being able to connect with anyone, but being very happy and joyful in that presence. And then the reset and the recreation started taking place. And I don't have to tell you, because you've done it the same way. We can create and manifest things that are absolutely amazing when we are out of our way, when we are not in that mind.
Oh, that's so good, Yukia. I just love, I knew we would have just such a fantastic conversation, and the audience will take so much. I feel like, honestly, like I could have easily 5 hours conversation. There's so many parallels around.
And there is.
But as we wrap this, I would love to invite you back again so we can go a little bit more deeper from this place of, again, there's just so much around this you shared again that I resonate so much with that space with person you were with, and the love was so much deeper for that other person. I remember one day a girlfriend said to me, she said, I wish you would love yourself as much as you're loving him. This was the person before that I was supposed to serve the calling with. This is before my call. And the love was so much more for him than for me. And that was God's protection of removing him. So I can.
Yes.
And that's what we don't read. His rejection was God's protection and came in, and for me to lift myself out of this. And there's so much around this, but I want to bring us to this, from this expansive, incredible, creative, truly divine, sovereign space that has merged in this unification within you. So tell me what's coming up. What do you have as we wrap up? Are there classes you are teaching? Are there events you're having, just so my audience comes up towards the end of this, so that way they know how to get in touch with you and work with you? And
yes. At the moment, I'm not offering anything.
Okay.
And the reason is that I'm in the middle of, it's been now 1.5 years that I've been tackling one of the projects of my life, so it's like something completely new, which is the Sacred Worlds game for children, which is the bridge of consciousness between parents, grandparents, and the education system. How are we going to bridge consciousness through gameplay? So I have developed, I'm the founder and the creator of this manifestation, this concrete action, which is a game for children, a game board. And we've just, in the last 3 weeks, I've just developed another 2 or 3 products that are also affiliated to the game to build the muscle so that by the time the game is released.
Is it available for sale already or not yet?
No, we're going to a Kickstarter because it's all complete. So we have the prototype. At the moment, we're testing the prototype in different countries, with a small audience. And we're going to a Kickstarter in June.
Excellent.
To raise the money to actually produce it and then deliver to globally, to different countries with a consciousness guide for parents, guide for alternative schools. It's going to be licensed at the alternative school. So I am very excited about this project. This is my, and it was inspired in my grandson who navigates through the worlds and who is, one of those children that we were, the golden children, but that have unique gifts, but also unique challenges, neuro challenges, but that activated during the pandemic this whole project for me, because I was doing homeschooling and with him, and the way he was interacting, the frustration with certain levels of the school curriculum, the remembrance that he came embodied with of other worlds, and how is it that he's going to be aligning himself in the normal education system, even at home with parents, and they had the benefit of having myself as guidance there. But what if they didn't? So that the emergence of Sacred Worlds came, by one of the inspirations, and also the way I was brought up, because, even though the path was not easy, like we've shared up to now, I was very fortunate and gifted to have been brought up in a home and in a family that was loving, and that welcomed my imagination, welcomed my eccentricity, that was always there to protect me, no matter how much, what choices I made, and a family of the heart, so not coming from a trauma energy, from a family, the path that was taken was looking for that experience of trauma. So knowing itself as a piece of God, and learning out through the fragmentation and out through the shadow aspects of the self that were unknown to me, when I was brought up for many, many, many years, then it needed to be learned, because that's one of the reasons we're here. We're here to understand how this polarity works, how this duality game, and how this virtual reality with all its roles and assignments, actually bring us back to that source and to that God's world.
Yes. And I'm going to link in with this board game that you have mentioned. I have it on your thing. I put it on this YouTube channel so that we keep an eye on it for June, and it will be so fantastic. I'm more than happy to assist and
yes. sacredworlds.com, and people can prescribe already to the newsletters. So there's a lot of updates when it's going to be released. There's videos released about the game. I've done a lot of videos, and I'm doing it, and sharing when the Kickstarter will be. So it's just prescribing to it,
post it in here so that the audience will know. Yes. And also,
but at the moment, I will, I am handling, one-on-ones on an, what you say, emergency level. If someone, I've got clients for a long time like you, and they write to me and say, look, I'm really in need of it, can you assist? And if I do have time,
Yeah,
I do assist, but I'm not offering.
I understand.
Because this year is my year to complete this project,
Yes.
you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is perfect. And
Yeah.
I thank you so much, Yukia. I am just so, my heart and soul together feels so delighted that you were able to come on. Finally, we get to have this
Yes.
interaction in here. And gosh, there's just so much more. And I know the audience received quite a bit from this. And I really thank you so very much for your sacred time, your sacred energy, and your sacred wisdom on us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was a gift to connect with you. I knew it was going to be tremendous, because we've connected anyway. We know each other quite well, in so many layers. And I look forward to our next conversation and connection. And thank you to the audience for holding a sacred space for us.
Absolutely. The audience, thank you so very much for your gift today, because you are such a huge part of this, and just being able to be open and allowing. That is the ultimate gift of mastery, is that. And this ascension walk, as I always share, is about sharing. So what Yukia shared today, if it touched you, it ignited that spark in you and your remembrance, and you really feel others would benefit, please reshare the video. We come on our energy so that through this fantastic mediums of computer, internet, this can also go out. So please share it. It will be uploaded in just a second on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook fan page, and I look forward to many more to come. And Yukia, you finished. You're the sacred divine feminine for the month of March. For all sacred divine, my galactic sisters, Magdalene Heart sisters. Yes. And as we go to April, are all sacred divine, fantastic masculine. So all the speakers are that. So it's going to be really wonderful.
And then that was also very interesting, and we didn't have time to touch it, but I just wanted to mention that during the time of my higher learning, with multidimensional guides, because practically I didn't have anyone on earth to do that. It was really guidance from multidimensionally. I walked the path of the rose, and that was through the path of the initiations of the rose, through this guide, that I opened my voice to singing, that I opened my language of light. So you very much in alignment as far as that, and the rose is the source, is our way back to the source. Absolutely. Of that feminine Sophia. Okay. Thank you, love.
Much love to everyone.
Yeah, much love.
Beautiful rest of your week. We have Ronnie Landis next week. It's going to be fantastic, and I am so thankful for this. I'm speaking